Picture this. The only growing space you have is the flat roof over your head. Not a yard, not a bed, not 1 square foot of soil you can dig, just the bare roof of a garage, an extension, or a block of flats, the surface everybody has and nobody uses. And up on that empty roof, I want to show you 3 things most people would not believe. A sack you tip over to pour out a pile of clean potatoes with no digging, a warm corner of tomatoes ripening earlier up there than they would in a garden down below, and a green wall of beans that grows itself while it quietly shelters everything behind it from the wind, all of it on a roof. Start with the potatoes, because that is the moment that sold me. At the end of summer, you walk up, grab a grow bag, tip it straight out onto the roof deck, and a pile of clean, fresh potatoes comes tumbling out, potatoes you grew in a sack in the sky with no digging and no yard. That is not a fantasy, and it is not a trick. A roof is the sunniest, highest, most wasted surface most people own, and it grows nothing but moss. So this is the garden I would build if a rooftop were all I had. And I will be honest with you in 1 sentence up front. Containers on a roof will not grow a field of grain or a whole winter's stored staples, but the fresh vegetables you actually load into a cart every week, the potatoes, the salad, the tomatoes, the beans, the herbs you pay a fortune for and throw half away, that whole side of the shopping you can grow up there in the open sky. And here is the thing nobody notices about a roof. It is already better than most gardens in the one way that matters most, light, because it sits in full sun all day with no fence, no tree, and no house next door throwing shade across it. You just have to beat the wind and keep it light, and I will show you exactly how. Let me build it, bag by bag, starting with the heavy stuff you hate carrying home. Station 1 is the heavy, boring, expensive stuff you lug home in a bag every week, potatoes and root vegetables, and a roof grows them for one reason a shaded ground plot cannot match: pure sun. Stand a few deep grow bags or old compost sacks up on the roof, fill them with a light soil mix so the weight stays sensible, and push in a couple of seed potatoes each. That is the whole setup. No bed, no digging, no forking. Here is the trick that makes bags beat the ground. As the plant grows, you keep mounding more soil up around the stem, and it keeps making potatoes up the buried stalk, so a tall bag turns a couple of seed potatoes into a surprising haul stacked all the way up. And here is the payoff moment, the one I opened on. When they are ready, you do not dig. You just grab the bag and tip it straight out onto the roof, and a clean pile of potatoes rolls out with no forking, no cutting a single one in half by mistake. Do the same with a couple of deep tubs of carrots and beetroot, and here is the surprise on those. Roots often grow straighter and cleaner in a deep tub of loose soil than in stony ground, because there are no rocks to fork them, and a roof of course has no stony ground at all, only the loose soil you gave it. A few bags and tubs up in the open sun quietly stand in for the heaviest, most rebought corner of the cart, but the next station is the one you rebuy the most, and it is the fastest of the whole build. Station 2 is the fresh stuff that goes off before you can eat it. Station 2 is the fresh stuff that goes off the fastest and that you rebuy every single trip: salad. And up on a roof you do not grow a pot of it, you grow a production line. Line up a run of wide, shallow tubs or a long trough along the sunny parapet edge, and here is why a roof wins. You have got open length and open light, more of both than a shaded yard, so you can stagger it properly. Fill the tubs with loose leaf greens, leaf lettuce, spinach, rocket, a little kale, and sow radish in the gaps. Now the one trick most people get wrong: you do not grow a lettuce, wait for a full head, and cut it down. You sow them close, and you harvest, cut and come again, taking only the outer leaves and leaving the growing point in the middle, so one sowing hands you salad for weeks, not one bowl. And because you have a whole row, you sow a little of each tub, a couple of weeks apart, so as one tub is picked out, the next is coming ready, a rolling supply, instead of a glut, then nothing. The radish is your fast win in the gaps. Seed to a crisp, peppery pull is often only around 3 to 4 weeks, quicker than a bag of salad goes slimy in the fridge, and the radish leaves go straight in the same bowl too. A run of shallow tubs up there can hand you a fresh salad most days of the week, about a minute from roof to plate. But the next station is the one everybody assumes you need a greenhouse for, and a roof grows it better than the garden below. Station 3 is where being up high is the secret weapon. Station 3 is where the roof does something no shaded garden can, and it is the crop people assume you need a greenhouse for: tomatoes, peppers, and chilies. Here is the whole secret, and it is the reason to grow them up high. A rooftop is the sunniest spot on the entire property because there is nothing above it to cast a shadow, no fence, no tree, no wall next door, just open sky from the first light to the last. And warmth behaves beautifully up there because heat rises and pools on that open deck, and if the roof has a parapet or you set up a low screen, it stores a little of the day's warmth and breathes it back in the evening, like a free half a greenhouse with no glass to buy. All that light and gathered heat can ripen your fruit earlier in the year and hold it going later than the same plant would manage down in a shaded, exposed garden below. Stand your grow bags of tomatoes, peppers, and chilies in the most open sun on the roof. Give them a sturdy cane or a string to lean on so the wind does not rock them, and here is the second surprise that keeps the harvest coming. The more you pick, the more they set, because the plant is only trying to make seed, so every fruit you take pushes it to flower and try again. The sunniest, warmest corner you own turns out to be the roof you never climb onto, and a few bags up there grow the summer crops people buy whole glass houses for. Before I build the next 3, let me show you how to turn a roof's one real problem into a crop. Station 4 takes the wind, the thing that scares people off rooftops, and puts it to work. So look at what the roof holds already: bags of potatoes and roots, a long production line of salad, and the sunniest corner of tomatoes and peppers on the whole property. Stop and notice what that is, because that is already the heaviest, freshest, and most expensive corners of the cart: the carbs, the salad, and the summer fruit, all grown on a bare roof that used to grow moss. The next 3 are what turn a good haul into never buying vegetables again: the crop that grows straight up out of the wind, the flavor you overpay for the worst, and the one move that keeps the whole roof feeding you when everyone else's pots have gone bare for the winter. Quick question while we are here, and I do read every reply: what is the one vegetable you are most tired of paying for? Tell me in the comments. I am genuinely curious what tops your list. Now, Station 4, and it turns the roof's biggest problem into a wall of food. Station 4 takes the one thing that puts people off rooftops, the wind, and turns it into a crop. A roof is breezy, that is true, so instead of fighting it, you grow a windbreak that you can eat, straight up into the air where there is nothing but empty space. Run a few strings or lean a slim trellis up against the parapet or a light frame, stand a pot at the bottom, and send up climbers, runner beans, peas, and cucumbers. This is the heavy hitter for the space it takes, because a climbing bean is one of the most generous things you can grow for its footprint. One pot no bigger than a dinner plate, a few strings, and the plant does all its growing in the air above it instead of sprawling across the deck. And here is the clever part: the reason this station is perfect for a roof: that green curtain of climbing leaves does not just feed you, it filters the wind, calming the breeze for every pot sitting behind it. So the thing that scares people off rooftops becomes the thing that shelters the whole garden. Beans and cucumbers do the same generous trick as the tomatoes. The more you pick the young ones, the more the plant sets, so a single row up a string can hand you beans and cucumbers for weeks from a pot you can step around. You have turned the roof's biggest weakness into a living wall that feeds you and protects everything else. Station 5 is the flavor that turns a pile of veg into actual meals, and it is the corner you overpay for the very worst. Station 5 is the flavor and the near-free stuff, the herbs, the green onions, and one big generous plant, and this is the corner of the produce section you overpay for the very worst. Think about how herbs are sold: a few cut sprigs sealed in a stiff plastic clamshell, one of the highest prices by weight in the whole store, and they turn to slime in the fridge in days, so half of every pack goes in the bin. It is the worst value on the shelf and the easiest thing of all to replace. Herbs are small and light, which is exactly what a roof wants, and they love the full sun and the sharp drainage up there, so line up little pots of the ones you actually cook with: basil, parsley, cilantro, a pot of mint kept on its own because it will bully everything next to it, and a clump of chives. Here is the spike, and it is almost too easy. One living herb pot you snip from all season costs about what a single clamshell does, except it never stops. Basil and parsley regrow the more you pinch them. Mint and chives come back on their own year after year, and green onions will regrow from the white root ends you were about to throw away, so push those scraps into a pot, and that little patch is effectively free forever. And leave room up there for one big generous pot of courgette, because a single healthy plant is famous for burying you in fruit all summer long from one pot, the definition of never buying that vegetable again. Flavor by the roof door, free onions from your scraps, and one plant that will not stop feeding you. But there is one station left, and it is the one that actually earns the word never. Station 6 is the move almost everyone skips. Station 6 is the one that earns the word never in Never Buy Vegetables Again, and it is the station almost everyone skips. Here is the mistake most people make. They fill the roof once in spring, pick through the warm months, and by autumn the bags are spent, everything winds down, and they drift straight back to the vegetable aisle for more than half the year. The fix has two easy parts, and neither is hard. First, succession, which simply means the day a bag or a tub finishes, something goes straight back in. When the early potatoes come out, that soil grows a batch of autumn greens, and when a lettuce bolts, the tub gets rezoned the same afternoon. Second, and this is the surprise that makes never realistic, you lean into the cold, because a lot of good, expensive vegetables actually prefer it. Hardy kale, leeks, chard, winter lettuce, spinach, and rocket keep growing through chilly weather, and a roof is quietly great at this for a reason people miss. It drains hard and it catches all the winter light, so it dodges the cold, soggy wet that rots so much winter veg down in a heavy garden bed. Tuck those pots out of the wind, lay a cheap clear cover or a cloche over them on the coldest nights, and you keep cutting fresh leaves and pulling leeks deep into the cold months, exactly when the same vegetables are at their most expensive and their least fresh in the store. Most roofs go bare in autumn not because they have to, but because nobody replanted them for the cold. Keep the bags turning over, and the roof keeps you out of the vegetable aisle for nearly the whole year. That is the whole build. Now here is how you run it so it actually replaces the shopping instead of just decorating the skyline. Here is the part that ties a dozen bags into one working garden instead of a dozen separate ones, and it is the reason a bare roof can genuinely keep you out of the vegetable aisle. A roof has one huge gift and two real limits. The gift is light, more open, unshaded sun than almost any garden below it ever gets. The limits are wind and weight, and both have simple answers. 3 rules make it all work. First, chase the sun and read the wind. Put the sun and warmth lovers, the tomatoes, peppers, and chilies out in the most open light and stand them behind your green wall of climbers so the beans take the brunt of the breeze for them. Second, keep it light and safe, and this is the one honest bit of caution in the whole build. Use a light soil mix instead of heavy garden dirt. Spread the containers out and keep the biggest, heaviest bags over the strong edges and load-bearing walls rather than the middle. And if it is not your building or you are at all unsure the roof is sound, ask the landlord or someone who knows before you load it up. Third, the big one. Never leave a bag bare. The day you tip a bag out, refill it that same day. Something fast in the shallow tubs, something climbing on the strings, never a bag of empty soil sitting there wasting a month of the best sun on the whole property. Do those three things, and the roof is always growing something, which is the only way it adds up to a real dent in the shopping. And one quiet bonus of building it all in bags and pots, you never altered the roof itself, so nothing is permanent. You can slide a bag to chase the sun, and if you ever move, the whole garden comes with you. Grow what your family actually eats, and the payoff is not a decorated skyline. It is the evening you cook dinner from bags on the roof and realize the veg drawer in the fridge has been empty for weeks because you stopped filling it. That is the system, not a bigger yard, a fuller roof. So that is the garden I would build if a rooftop were all I had. Bags of potatoes and roots you tip out on the deck, a production line of cut-and-come-again salad, the sunniest corner of tomatoes and peppers on the property, a green wall of beans and cucumbers that shelters the rest from the wind, herbs and onions and a courgette that will not quit, and cool season greens to carry it through the cold, every bag refilled the day it empties, so it almost never stops. This channel is called 1 Acre Blueprint, and by now the real lesson is clear. The blueprint was never really about the acre. It is about how hard each square foot works, and a roof worked properly, in full unobstructed sun, can keep a family out of the vegetable aisle for most of the year. Do not try to build all of it at once. Start with one bag this week, potatoes for the satisfying tip-out haul, or a trough of salad if you want to be picking in a few weeks, or a pot of herbs that pays you back the first time you skip that sad little clamshell. Subscribe to stay on the 1 Acre Blueprint, because next we take this exact idea one step further, stacking the roof, the balcony, and the ground into one vertical food column that feeds a family right through the year. And tell me in the comments, if a rooftop were all you had, which of these 6 would you build first?